with a kid of my own, stuck at home and able to catch the reruns airing seemingly nonstop on Nickelodeon. It still made me sad sometimes to think about what I had missed, but I had a life I wanted now, and my pain was dull enough that I could enjoy the truly excellent joke writing. I made an effort to catch up. I could relate to Dan and Roseanne now more than I could to Darlene, and that freaked me out. I would have a conversation with my husband, Jeff, and then I would hear it almost verbatim from the other room, but in my mom's voice. Imagine what that does to a Jewish daughter's fear of turning into her mother. I noted the similarities of the early seasons of my childhood, and I also noted the differences, which forced me to look back at the past that I had been ecstatic to leave behind. Neither Becky nor Darlene had to manage a public life because of their mother's fame. There were no crash diets, and they didn't struggle with their weight. They lived at home through their teen years, and when they sneaked boys into their house, the boys got to stay and become a part of the family. They suffered no PTSD or mental illness in the form of anxiety disorders. Neither of them had been indoctrinated into a cult, OD'd, or spent a year or more in a private mental health facility. They were lightweight PG versions of us with no complicated backstories. Must be nice. Chapter 1. Most of my dolls had polio. The obstetrician was stuck in Memorial Day traffic, and the nurses in my mom's hospital room demanded that she wait for him before pushing. Thankfully, listening to instructions is not her forte, and so she pushed. I shot out just as the doctor rushed in. He caught me inches from the floor. The cord was around my neck, and I was seconds away from brain damage. My family loves to insinuate that maybe I didn't escape that fate. From the moment I bungee jumped out of my mom's uterus, I was ready to have kids of my own. I had already done the hard work of growing a couple ovaries full of eggs, and I was on my way to start hunting for a sperm donor. As I grew to be a toddler and beyond, the single-minded compulsion to procreate was embarrassing in our second-wave feminist circle. It was obviously a result of programming, if not programming by society, then by genetics or cellular memory. Either way, I wasn't strong enough to overcome it. I was born a breeder. My not-yet-famous mom, Roseanne Barrs, her radical sister Geraldine, whom we called Beanie, and all the friends they were making in their feminist bookstore collective, a group of women who gathered to support one another's exodus from the patriarchy, worked hard to make sure I knew I had choices. They would see me struggling to change one of my doll's diapers and say, you don't have to do that. You can go read a book or play guitar or drive a truck, be a doctor, anything you want. That was the big thing in the 70s, people telling kids they could be anything they wanted. When I was first asked what I wanted to be, I said, a shopping center and a cow. My bitch of a sister, Jessica, who answered that same question with an archaeologist and a parapsychologist, loved to poke my side fat and say, at least you attained one of those goals. I would act excited to try these other things my mom and her friends spoke of just to shake them off my trail, and then I'd slink away to force-feed applesauce to a doll I'd modified with a utility knife to have an open mouth. This was before we could afford the fancy dolls that were meant to be fed. When I'd squeeze my baby's cheeks to open their lips, their heads were often full of rotten food and mold. No matter, my love was unconditional. My mom and Beanie were challenging the programming they were exposed to back in Salt Lake City, where they had grown up in the 60s watching women have upward of 10 kids for their lord. As the only Jews in their Mormon neighborhood, they were outsiders, which is a prerequisite for noticing oppressive systems at play. From their unique perspective, they were able to question why things were the way they were, instead of just blindly falling into line. Thus began their rebellious journey into destroying these systems. While my mom and aunt and their like-minded pals sat around talking about their part in the return of the divine feminine in the basement of the bookstore, I was upstairs playing in the aisles with my babies, trailing after Jessica, who was 13 months older than me, as she searched the shelves for Nancy Drews she hadn't yet read. The store had regular used books, along with lots and lots about alternative subjects. It had works by Mary Daly, the lesbian theologian, how-to Wicca books, the inspirational series Seth Speaks, and A Course in Miracles. There was a section on mysticism and Kabbalah, and books about the Akashic Records. There were zines and booklets with back-page ads for mail-order witchcraft kits featuring a black and white photocopy of an amulet, a mostly illegible text description, a P.O. box address, and an amount of cash to send along with a self-addressed stamped envelope. You had to do a lot of work back then to put a spell on someone. I would pick up a book here and there, especially if it seemed like it might contain some sexy stuff, but mostly I just played house. I loved hanging out with my dolls, not necessarily because I loved dolls, but because I loved the maternal...